Thank you very much, Jude.
Thank you. And I just realised that we've now gone into 15 minutes of question time, so I will extend that for another few minutes.
The final question that I have, and I don't know whether this has actually been activated in council for many years. All the land that's been given by families in Mandurah and that has been handed over or vested in the city of Mandurah, I've not been able to find in the accounts of the electors' meetings where there is a list that you hold and the actual value of those properties at present. An example of this is in 1985, my father donated a block, 35 Leslie Street, for the Scouts when the Water Police took over Soldiers Cove. Now, what I'm wondering is, and what I've been told, that the council is interested in purchasing more land on the eastern foreshore for parking. So if you have a block like 35 Leslie Street that's been given to the council in those days, 1985, for the Scouts to use, and it's not been used for that, it's just been left as a canal block, would the council consider reselling that block of land and putting the money towards parking in the city of Mandurah on the east side?
Thank you. I'll refer to the CEO, but I think...
Thank you, through the Mayor. In terms of the requirements from a financial point of view, from a financial statements presentation, it's not a requirement to list donors of land or anyone that contributes to the city acquiring land. We are required to record all of our assets at fair value, and the city's management can be made up of land that the city holds in freehold, which we have a property strategy that identifies that land. But then we also have land that we manage through the Crown, and that is classed as a reserve. So we don't have ownership of that, and we cannot sell those lots either. That we that we are responsible for the management of those. So we have a property strategy in relation to the background of the parcels of land that we hold in freehold and the intended purpose of those, and then we also look forward in terms of what they can be used for in the future that will be in the best interests of the community as well. So that's how that consideration of the property strategy is determined and presented to council for endorsement. So happy to have an officer sit with you in relation to the property strategy and go through the lots that we identified as freehold, and some of the lots that you may identify may be land that we have a management order over and that we class as a reserve. So we'll be in contact with you in relation to going through those lots, if you like.
Thank you very much indeed for the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you had a final question? Is there a final question?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were only allowed 3.
Well, I think we can extend another one. So.
I was going to leave it for next month. The other question was that we had been told by people that are working here that the City of Mandurah is wanting to extend the CDB to incorporate the eastern foreshore and the western foreshore. I'm wondering whether, firstly, the councillors or the actual officers of the council would be consulting with the owners of the eastern foreshore properties at a further date, and there's an amount of money that's been put away for many, many years for parking by the people that live in the eastern foreshore premises and ran their shops. We're not sure exactly how much is in that fund. It's been going for a long time. My cousin's had been contributing to it over 10 years ago, and so had many others. But what we're wondering is, if it goes to the people asking for the eastern and the western to become part of the CBD, does that mean that the monies from the eastern foreshore that we've all contributed to over there for parking will be used on the western foreshore?
Thank you for the question. I will refer firstly to the Manager of Strategic Planning.
Thanks. Through the Mayor, I'll take some of those questions on notice, but just to touch on a few points. The City Centre Master Plan that Council endorsed in 2024 actually extends on either side of the estuary channel and includes both public and privately owned land on the western and eastern sides of the estuary channel. That's primarily because those public spaces are just as important as the private land holdings to the success of the city centre as a whole. You mentioned, well, so there was a question there on parking and cash in lieu that's been provided. That issue was addressed through the city centre car parking plan. We did actually do an audit of the car parking cash in lieu that's been collected over an extended period of time. The next step in that is actually that the city needs to prepare a payment in lieu of parking plan about how those funds can be spent, and that's regulated by the West Australian Planning Commission. So we have some very specific requirements of where and how money can be spent, and it has to be used in a general location of which the money has been collected from. So we need to work through that detail, and that's a budgeted project that's on next year's corporate business plan.
Thank you, and thank you for your questions, and we will be in contact with you to provide some further information. So thank you for coming along tonight. Are there any other questions from the floor? If not, I will close question time at 12 minutes past 6 and thank everyone for their questions. We'll now move to public statements, and there are none. Number 8 is leaves of absences. Councillor Kearns has requested a leave of absence from the 21st of June until the 21st of July, exclusively. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder? Approve that. Councillor Wright and Councillor Smith. Put that to the vote. That is carried. Councillor Kearns, it looks like you're going on a nice long holiday. Are there any other councillors wishing to submit a leave of absence request? Councillor Wright?
Yes, please, through the Mayor. From the 5th of July to the 25th of July.
The 5th of July.
That's work related, but I won't be here. Yep.
July. Thank you. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Wilkins. Is anyone opposed to that? No, that is carried. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to seek a leave of absence? No. Okay, thank you. We'll now move to petitions. And can I please ask Councillor Cumberworth to present the petition with regards to Adonis Road? Councillor Cumberworth.
I would like to present to Council a petition that contains the signatures of 168 residents, all of whom are verified, who are requesting that the right turn off Mandurah Terrace into Adonis Road should be kept open and made safer by installing a turning lane. I would like to move that the petition be received and referred to the relevant officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. Would you like to move that item? Yes. You're moving it? Okay, can I ask for a seconder? Councillor Smith, put that to the vote. That is carried. Thank you. We will now move to presentations, and there are none. Deputations, there are no deputations. A confirmation of the minutes. I now call for a mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of March 2025. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Pond and Councillor Wilkins. Put that to the vote. That is carried. Thank you. Announcements by presiding members. So I will move to councillors who have been attending various events across our community. Firstly, I'd like to call upon Councillor Pond, who attended the Peel Open Studios exhibition.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, on the 11th of April, pardon me, I attended the launch of the Peel Open Studios Origins 25 exhibition. The exhibition itself is on from the 14th of April to the 11th of May at the Alcoa Mandurah Art Gallery at the Manpack. It's got a diverse collection of artworks there in diverse mediums, paint, ceramics, glass, a range of things. Really celebrates the creativity that we've got within the region. And of course, it would be remiss to say anything about launching that one exhibition in itself when it's really, in a greater scheme of things, to launch the 2025 Peel Open Studios, of which I have one of the booklet here, which is open this weekend and the following weekend, where we've got 70 different artists around the region that open their home studios and professional studios. So you can go in, visit artists at their place of work, see what they do, see what they have. It's quite fascinating. I've gone to a few along the way. Dates and times and a trail map are all in the brochure, which you can get online or at multiple city facilities and I understand some cafes and that sort of thing around town. But I really encourage people to go see the open studios and support our local artists. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pond. Now move to Councillor Kearns, who was at the official launch event of One Place, Many Voices.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Yes, I had the absolute joy of joining our Mayor, our CEO and members from our community at the launch of an exquisite art piece which was actually created by hundreds of people in Mandurah on Australia Day, where everybody had the opportunity to add to this art piece which spans over 3 metres, and it's like a bird's eye view of our community. And I think in a time where there is so much that divides people, this is a piece that really represents what unites us as a community and what we have in common, and that is our exquisite waterways and this beautiful place that we get to call home. And very, very special art piece that will be on display at the Mandurah Aquatic Centre until the 25th of May. And I just would love to say a massive thank you to Deborah Bonar, who is a local award-winning Aboriginal artist who has created this art piece with the many hands and hearts of our community. And I would recommend everybody getting down there and checking it out. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kearns. So I'd just like to say some words about Anzac Day. So last Friday, obviously on April the 25th, we commemorated what is a very important date in our country's calendar, Anzac Day. On Anzac Day, people from all walks of life in our community stood together to remember and honour the immense bravery of those who have sacrificed, served and continue to serve our country. We gathered to pay tribute to our remarkable Anzac heroes and reflected on the values they uphold and the freedoms that they fought to protect. These are values we should continue to uphold every day. Thousands of people across Mandurah came together for various Anzac Day services in the city, including the major dawn services in Mandurah and Dawesville and the main service at the Mandurah War Memorial. A heartfelt thank you to our local RSL branches, Mandurah and Dawesville, for all their efforts in organising such a wonderful service to pay respects to the courage of our Anzac heroes. The services were special, solemn and extremely moving. I'd like to acknowledge my fellow councillors who attended various Anzac Day ceremonies at community events and schools and other facilities to honour our servicemen and women. I'd also like to recognise that this year marks the 20th anniversary of our iconic Mandurah War Memorial, taking pride of place on the Western Foreshore. Our striking memorial was designed by award-winning architects Hamish Charlie and was officially launched on April the 18th, just before Anzac Day in 2005. Thank you again for the part that you play in honouring and recognising Anzac Day in the community. So we'll now move to announcing this month's local legend. And this month I've got the privilege of announcing that Jan Baker is our local legend for April 2025. And Jan Baker is recognised for her unwavering commitment to preserving and sharing Mandurah's rich history. For over 23 years, Jan has volunteered her time and expertise, playing a key role in establishing the Friends of the Museum, where she currently serves as Vice President. She has collected more than 100 oral histories from local families, preserving community heritage, led research on local pioneering families, including the Sutton, Tuckey and Cooper families. She's contributed to major publications and highlighted the contribution of women educators, Aboriginal community members and the early pioneering families. Jan's passion for lifelong learning and community heritage shines through in everything she does, an inspiring legacy that continues to enrich Mandurah's sense of place and history. And we will be going to the museum to acknowledge her there with her fellow volunteers, if you're wondering why she's not here tonight. So I'd just like to, if we could put our hands together for Jan though, this evening. Okay, we'll now move to the next part of the meeting, which is declarations of interest. So elected members and officers are now asked to declare any real or perceived interest that they may have in respect of the reports listed for consideration this evening. And should any elected member or officer declare an interest, I would remind them of the need to leave the chamber immediately prior to the item's discussion. So CEO, you have received many declarations tonight, and I'll let you go through them.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the first declaration of interest is Jude Thomas for report number 1, as it's an impartiality interest, as she's a member of the Mandurah Performing Arts Centre Board as a city representative, and this facility is listed as a project. Ben Dreckow, impartiality interest for report 1, as he has declared impartiality interest due to being Vice President, Junior President at Halls Head Cricket Club and the board member at the Metropolitan Junior Cricket Club. Craig Johnson, report 1, impartiality interest due to being the chairperson for the Peel Regional Academy of Sport and board member of Coodnap College. Myself, in report 1, impartiality interest due to being a board member of Mandurah Basketball Association and the Peel Regional Academy of Sport. Councillor Shannon Wright, report 1, declaring an impartiality interest due to being the principal at Greenfields Primary School and the past member of the Halls Head Cricket Club, Mustangs Football Club, Mandurah Surf Lifesaving Club and on the board of John Tonkin College Education Support Centre. Councillor Jess Smith, report number 1, declaring an impartiality interest as she's a manager of the South Mandurah Junior Football Team. Councillor Jess Smith again for report 4, impartiality interest as she's on the Access and Inclusion Committee. Councillor Jacob Cumberworth, report 1, declaring impartiality interest as he's a member of the Port Mandurah Sport and Port Bivard Sport and Recreation Club and Port Bivard Yacht Club. Councillor Bob Pond, report 1, an impartiality interest as his spouse is a member of the Halls Head Bowling Club. Councillor Bob Pond, report number 2, an impartiality interest as he holds 370 shares in Telstra, which is a parent company of Amplitel, and the current value of the shares is $1,657. Councillor Daniel Wilkins, report number 1, an impartiality interest as he's a MANPAC board member as a council representative, and the city may request funding from his employer as part of any of those infrastructure items. Councillor Ryan Burns, report number 1, a impartiality interest due to being a past player, committee member and having a current social connection to Halls Head Cricket Club, a key user for the city facilities. Councillor Amber Kearns, report 1, a impartiality interest due to being a member of multiple boards and committee groups, including Greenfields Primary School, John Tonkin College, Peel Community Kitchen, Allenby, West Olds Crisis Care, and worked at Mandurah Primary School, and her husband is the president of the Mandurah Basketball Association. Councillor Amber Kearns, report number 4, an impartiality interest as she is part of the Access and Inclusion Committee. Mayor Caroline Knight, report number 2, and this is a financial interest as she owns more than 10,000 Telstra shares.
Thank you, CEO. It really shows that all of our councillors are very involved across the whole region. A lot of involvement there. Okay, and just for everyone's clarity, those with impartiality will remain in the room. Those that have, like myself, will leave the room. But Councillor Burns, you have a question.
I wish to declare an impartiality. I am currently a federal Senate candidate for the Libertarian Party in this election, and given some of our community infrastructure may depend on federal funding, it's appropriate for me to declare that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that, for all your declarations. We'll now move to 15, questions from elected members. There has been no questions given prior to the meeting. Are there any questions from elected members this evening? There are no questions. Okay, we will now move to item 16, business left over from previous meeting. There is none. Recommendations from committees, there is none. And we will then move to item 18, which is reports from the Chief Executive Officer. Report 1 is the Community Infrastructure Plan, which is, as you can see before you on the screen. Can we please move the screen up so we can see the officer recommendation? Thank you. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder for report 1? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Smith. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor Knight. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to what is an incredibly important strategic document and plan for the City of Mandurah and for all local governments for that matter. Just a refresher, the purpose of the plan is to consider new renewal, upgrade and disposal requirements for community infrastructure. It consolidates existing strategic plans, provides a framework in relation to decision making and advocacy on behalf of the city, aligns with our community, with our strategic community plans, Mayor, informs and maximises the capital investment and supports the development of complex funding submissions, assists in the prioritisation and implementation of projects, and informs resource allocation, as well as a number of other key goals to the plan. One thing that I really like about this plan, Mayor, is that it is informed quite substantially by a needs analysis of particular areas within our local government authority, as well as supported by an extensive consultation process that we've been through for a number of months, again, in relation to what is a very, very important plan. Another part that I like about the structuring of this plan is the division of areas of our local government into what is called Mandurah North, Mandurah Central, Mandurah East, Mandurah Island, and the Dawesville and South areas, as well as some key guiding principles that are outlined within the plan, which is to inform all of the activity, all of the activities that fall out of the plan. For those that are interested, a really fantastic summary is contained on page 57 of tonight's agenda, which sets the high, medium and low priority of projects that have fallen out of this community infrastructure plan. And just to rattle off a few which will be ideally delivered in the next 1 to 4 years under high priority: the Lakelands Community Centre and Library Delivery Model Review and the new Lakelands Youth Park in the north, the Rushton Park Master Plan, the Mandurah Netball and Multipurpose Hard Courts Complex, the new Central Mandurah Library and Learning Hub, the Mark Master Plan, upgrades to the Mandurah Performing Arts Centre, the Peelwood Reserve Master Plan and the Falcons Men's Shed upgrade, as well as the Dawesville Community Centre opening. Fantastic to see that as high priorities, substantial projects are located in what is the cultural and community hub of Mandurah, which is the central region and the island region, which contains suburbs of Mandurah and Halls Head in central Mandurah. So I'm sure the town board councillors will be very happy with the outcomes of this plan. But really, it's a fantastic plan that guides really long-term thinking about the infrastructure requirements of our community and how we are planning as a council to invest in those needs and those asks from our community, because community investment is so vital. It's a massive thing for our community, and it's a massive part of what we do as a local government. That expectation is very clearly set to us by community. The ask is always for more from community, and I think this plan provides an opportunity to, in a structured way, deliver on that expectation and deliver an ambitious and substantial program of community infrastructure. So happy to support the report as presented by officers and the recommendation that's contained in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Now go to Councillor Smith. Thank you, through the Mayor. I'd firstly like to commend the officers for producing a well-structured and very easy-to-read document. It's clearly presented, demonstrates thoughtful consideration of community needs, be it sport, arts or culture. I particularly appreciate the principle focused on equality and accessibility, which emphasises equal access for all members of the community. This approach will no doubt help foster social connectivity and generate positive social outcomes. I understand the population of Mandurah has grown exponentially and space is of a premium, and I appreciate the importance of the shared model approach to facilities. The proposal to consolidate the active recreation strategy, the skate and BMX strategy and the social infrastructure plan into a single streamlined framework is a logical and effective step. This integration will help reduce duplication and ensure a more cohesive strategic direction. Thank you for incorporating community feedback, especially in relation to key themes such as additional consultation with local clubs, the enhancement of community and social spaces, environmental sustainability and the preservation of green spaces. On that note, I strongly support the decision to have no further development at the Cattedup Reserve in Dawesville. As one of the last remaining bushland areas in the region, it holds significant environmental and community value. And while I recognise the importance of preserving bushland, I also acknowledge the growing need for youth-focused recreational facilities. So my one piece of feedback in this context, I'd like to raise a concern regarding the prioritisation of a skate, BMX and youth precinct in the coastal ward. Given the area's rapid population growth, particularly in Dawesville and Bouvard, and the fact that the nearest skate park is currently 6 k's away in Falcon, I would encourage the officers to review demographic projections and reassess the demand for such facilities in this region. Additionally, I'd like to welcome the possibility of a reconsideration of the potential to allocate a little bit of council land for a community-led and managed garden in Falcon. Such a space would support community connection, sustainability and local wellbeing. I'm very happy to endorse the final plan and encourage my fellow councillors to do the same. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Is there anyone that has any questions or anyone wishing to speak against the report? No. If that's the case, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Lovely, thank you. Now, I will hand to you because I need to leave the room for the next report. Thank you. So moving on to report 2, disposal lease to Amplitel Pty Ltd. I would like to ask for a mover and a seconder for the council resolution. Have a mover, Councillor Cumberworth, seconder, Councillor Pond. Would you like to speak to the movement, Councillor Cumberworth?
Telecommunications are essential for the city and the residents to function, and it appears that we're getting quite a reasonable rent per square metre for the property, so happy to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Like my colleague, I would support the motion. It is very important communication infrastructure in that neck of the woods, and it's important to recognize that it doesn't really change anything as the area has been leased and there is the infrastructure there. It's just renewing that lease arrangement that has lapsed at this point in time. So I'd encourage people to support the communications in the southern end of the Mandurah district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone like to speak against the motion? Any questions? Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's moved unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Okay, we'll now move to report 3, which is the local government reform consultation, the online registers and CEO KPIs. The council resolution is there in front of you. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Kearns.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support of the recommendation as it stands. This is broadly about adopting the submission that's contained as attachment 3.1 to the report. As we do at the City of Mandurah, we have a number of working groups, particularly around policy positions and discretionary decision-making to come together as a collective of officers and elected members to formulate general plans prior to something coming to council, and a submission in relation to legislative amendments is a perfect example of using those internal working groups. And so thank you to the governance team who have led the collection of elected members and staff through a consideration of the new proposed legislative requirements and what would become compliance obligations on the city. Broadly in relation to the items with the CEO, the city broadly supports most of the recommendations that are being proposed, and I don't propose to go into that. In relation to the requirement for the registers that exist in the attachment, broadly it's that the city, as part of its submission, is suggesting that it does not support the addition of new compliance registers. You can see in the attachment, the column to the left talks about what the proposed amendment regulation is going to do, but it doesn't really have a lot of why. And I think that has formulated part of what I understand this council's collective response to be to the proposed registers, which is we can have as many compliance obligations as can exist under the sun, but for what purpose? And every extra compliance obligation we have, that always comes with a minute extra of somebody's time to do a particular function. So you'll see there's a lot of commentary about it's not clear to the city what purpose these registers are seeking to achieve, what risk it's trying to mitigate against, and how this is in keeping with the idea of reducing red tape. There's always the accountability and transparency question, but I'm sure that there are other means to be accountable and transparent as well, rather than prescriptive registers existing in the legislation. Broadly, it's a collection of the responses from the city, and collectively will be taken into account with all those of other local governments around the state, and we'll see what comes back in relation to the response on the proposed amendments. So happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Kearns.
What more can one add? I would just like to echo our appreciation to the governance team. Thank you so much for taking us on the journey and ensuring that we're all well aware of what we're trying to put in that space. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Yeah, nothing further to add.
Thank you, Councillor Kearns. Does anyone have a question or wish to speak against the item? No? If that's the case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to report 4, which is the Access and Inclusion Advisory Group nominations. And I'll just remind people that the attachment is confidential. The resolution is before you on the screen, and can I please ask for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Cumberworth and Councillor Pond.
It is actually one of the proudest things about being Australian is how fantastic the access is we provide for disabled people, because when travelling overseas, quite often you recognise that if you have even a minor disability, then you're not able to access a lot of buildings, etc. I understand Mandurah recently won an award for access and inclusion, and the candidates presented seem excellent from my perspective. Happy to move this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. Councillor Pond?
I very much agree with Councillor Cumberworth. My best friend in the world is in a wheelchair herself, and having travelled with her in various places, it becomes very obvious where people are being good to people with that sort of mobility issues and where they're not being so kind to that sort of mobility issue. So I appreciate what it does. The other thing that struck me in going through this report was the caliber of the people that had nominated to be on the committee was really outstanding. Both those who are not recommended and those who are bring together a really wide variety of both professional skills and lived experience to be able to assist the city with meeting the needs of people with some of the access and inclusion issues that may be confronted and the city can help with. So very much support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pond. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, through the Mayor. Just as part of the recommendation on page 181, it says that the community representative would have the term expiring 17th of October 25. Is it only just that short period? Thank you.
Through the Mayor, the reason why that term expires at that date is the local government elections, and so the working groups we go out for advertising again, and then the new council will make a decision on who the representatives are a part of the working group.
Thank you. Is anyone wishing to speak against the item? Okay, can I put that to the vote? All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Okay, we'll now move to report 5, and we'll invite the manager to do a presentation. It's freezing. It's freezing. I know.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the finance report for March 2025. There we go. Thank you. So looking at the first slide for the graphs for operating, you can see the operating income sitting right on budget, operating expenditure operating slightly below budget, where we'd like to see them at this time of year. The graphs for capital, you will see a sharp spike in non-operating income. That is due to milestones being met at the Dawesville Community Centre and Pinjarra Road. So we recognise the grant revenue for that in this month. Capital expenditure is still below budget. We will see an uptick as we complete projects in the next few months. Interest trends, interest saved through our loan offset facility sit at around $166,000 at the end of March. And term deposit interest, we're still seeing rates of up to 5%, keeping track of interest rates as we go on the next few months. Rates receivable, March last year we were sitting at 96.5% collected. March this year is 90.5% collected. The reason we are looking so far behind is our instalments are a couple of months behind where they were last year. So our last instalment is due in April. So next month we should see that decrease. Looking at the rates collections though, properties greater than 10,000 following much the same trend as you would expect from last year, and 3 to 10 is following that trend as well. And like I said, we've got instalments due next month, so we should see that decrease again. Budget variations in this report, there's only one, which I'll take as read in the report. And for March, we have a few tenders that I'll take as read in the report as well. But I'd like to add that the city's procurement team observed the tender evaluation process and is satisfied that the probity and procedural aspects relating to the evaluation were compliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the report now. The resolution, council resolution is before you on the screen. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder of the report? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. We are, from a reporting perspective, only 3 months away from what is Christmas to accountants, end of financial year. I'm sure they're all looking forward to it eagerly. So we're getting to the end there. A good set of reports from our financial team, as always. Just drawing council's attention to that list of key projects. Again, the whole purpose of having this table in the report was to make sure that our key expenditure for key capital projects was coming in on time and in budget. And that's looking really, really good for the majority of our major projects. Just one thing on there, if I could pull out in relation to Coodinop Foreshore, there's been some consultation that appears to be required or has been engaged in with traditional owners in relation to the Coodinop Foreshore. Was expected that stage 3 was going to commence in March 25. That's now going to commence in May 2025 with the completion of that stage 3 of that project in August 2025. So that's good. Only a couple of months delayed, and always good to have good consultation with our traditional owners in the area. In relation to budget variation on Clarence Street, that's just a bringing forward of money which was sat in the asset management reserve, but is now being brought forward for a particular project, so happy to support that. And then just in relation to the actual set of reports as well, we saw that line trending down in relation to rates outstanding, which mirrors what has existed in previous years in terms of trends. But one thing that I thought was great to point out, and sort of fingers crossed, we're only 3 months away from the end of the financial year, is properties commence legal action in 24-25, 0. We don't always get to control these things, but I think it's wonderful that the city hasn't had to exercise any action in relation to legal action for the recovery of rates outstanding. So that's really great. I think that's sort of a key indicator, I guess you could say, of financial strain throughout the city, and the fact that that's a big fat 0 is great news. The only other thing is just in relation to the tenders, which we saw in the report from the manager, for a number of them being one-offs, but I'm happy with all of those. So as always, thank you to the staff for the presentation of the great financials that we consider on a month-to-month, and happy to support the recommendation as it's been presented in the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. And now move to the seconder, Councillor Smith. Nothing further, thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions from councillors? Anyone wishing to speak against the report? If not, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move to item 18, which is motions of which notice have been given, and we will move to Councillor Burns, who has a policy amendment, the use of city video content by elected members. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. In order to facilitate debate, can I please ask that standing orders be suspended in accordance with clause 8.5 and 8.6 of the City of Mandurah Standing Orders Local Law? Further, due to the report having a confidential attachment, presiding member, it may be appropriate that council moves behind closed doors to enable discussion and on the subject of the legal advice, and we can then move back to open doors to debate if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. So if we suspend, I've got some wording here, for the, if we suspend standing orders, so in order to facilitate debate, can I ask for a mover and a seconder that standing orders 8.5 and 8.6 that place limitations on the number and duration of speeches be suspended? Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder? A mover and a seconder. Councillor Burns. Councillor Cumberworth. And now we're going to move behind closed doors. Can I please put that to the vote first? We're going to put that to the vote. Did we move? There is no desire. Burns. Councillor Cumberworth. I'm putting that. Is anyone opposing that, or are we happy to move to? We're happy to. Councillor Rogers, you're opposing the suspension of standing orders. Okay, who would like to vote for this? And I apologise because we've not done this before, so I'm a little bit clunky about this. Who is voting for the suspension of standing orders? We're just so I'll go to the CEO just to clarify what we're doing here. So just
to understand why that might be being requested. Like, can the mover make a statement?
So the mover has said that he would like to discuss a legal advice. So for Councillor Burns to discuss a legal advice, we have to go behind closed doors.
But at the moment we're suspending standing orders. But we should really be moving behind closed doors before. Yeah. Anyway, well, so Councillor Rogers, you have a question?
Just a question. Is it not the case that the vote on the suspension of standing orders and a vote to go behind closed doors are two separate things?
Yes, they are.
So
yes.
the vote, as I understand it, is that we're voting on the suspension of standing orders at the moment.
Yes, that is correct. So we're just voting on the suspension of standing orders. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'll put that to the vote that we can discuss the items. Those in favour? Those opposed? Councillor Rogers, that is carried. I'll now ask that we go behind closed doors. We need to move behind closed doors in order to have the discussion. That's correct. So a mover, Councillor Burns. Councillor Cumberworth. All those in favour? Thank you, and I'd like to thank the members of the public. We're going to move behind closed doors and ask the doors be closed. And suspend live stream. And can I please confirm from the Minute Officer that we have suspended live streaming? beg your pardon. We'll need to just confirm that the live streaming has commenced. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to those in the gallery. Councillor Burns, I'm going to move to you now for your motion.
Thank you, Chair. Before doing that, I wish to move a motion to defer this notice of motion.
Thank you. Can I
For the reasons that a deferral will likely put the council in a better position to make a fully informed decision, and I will not talk too much about the reason, but it does pertain to the legal advice which is stated in the publicly facing agenda. It is really important, and it is a role of council to make fully informed decisions. And in general terms, when people receive legal advice, to fully ascertain the context.
Point of order. Are we into debate, or are we seeking a seconder? Or I'm just a bit confused on the process, Mayor.
Sorry,
Okay.
beg your pardon.
So,
can I please have a seconder?
Just check the date that you want to be the council meeting.
Can I just check though, Councillor Burns, that you would wish to defer, and what date is it that you're asking for a deferral?
To the May meeting.
The May meeting, May 2025. Can I please ask for a seconder of that item? Councillor Cumberworth. Thank you. Councillor Burns, do you wish to speak to the deferral?
Thank you. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it is a role and it is incumbent on us to make fully informed decisions. It's what the community expects of us. This one's a delicate nature because it involves legal advice which has been deemed confidential. Therefore, my view on that legal advice is it doesn't create a full picture and it doesn't allow council to make that fully informed decision. So I wish to be able to explore and inform council over the coming month to inform them a little bit more about this notice of motion and do that while adhering to the strict confidentiality that is required of us. So it's not a complicated motion in itself. The complication comes in because of the legal advice. So this is really when it does come before council, if I'm successful in deferring this for 1 month, I'm pretty sure it will be a fairly simple debate. But I just allow for that leeway from council to defer it, and we can then give assurance to our community that we have made a fully informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I'll move to the seconder, Councillor Cumberworth.
I look forward to this issue being appropriately discussed and workshopped. I think that the current policy potentially puts undue pressure on the CEO to vet all forms of use of video recordings through the city. I think there probably could be a more simplified and appropriate policy that could be put in place with more detail, so that in this modern world, the use of video and media is more. A line is drawn that everyone understands. So I look forward to working with council on that in the next month.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the deferral of this policy? Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to speak against the deferral, namely that I believe I have all the information in front of me to make a fully informed decision. One is that the reasons for the motion are outlined in the notice of motion stated by Councillor Burns. It's the responsibility of the CEO under the Act to provide a response to any of notice of motion. That's been a request for legal advice in relation to a number of legal risks. Those have been put in the legal advice, which is a confidential attachment, but a summary has been provided in the public report. I think that there is satisfactory information here to make a decision tonight, and I'm ready to make a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Is there anyone wishing to speak for the deferral? Or a question? Councillor Jackson.
Just a question for the CEO, if you wouldn't mind. Do you have a response to the seconder's comments around your capacity to operate within the current framework?
Through you, Mayor. Currently, I have only ever received one request for use of footage being cut, and based on the reputation of the city and the protections, I felt I had enough of a assessment to be able to make a decision that provided enough guidance for me. So I believe that the policy is adequate for me to make a decision.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak for Councillor Burns's deferral? If that's the case, I'm going to put it to the vote. So yes, Councillor Burns, you can close.
Thank you, Chair. I won't talk about what's in the legal advice, but I feel relatively comfortable to talk about what's not in it. And in it was interesting that Councillor Rogers talked about my reasons for the motion stated, and in one of those reasons pertains to alignment with fair dealing principles under the Commonwealth Copyright Act of 1968, Part 4. I would like councillors to understand a lot more about how fair dealings exemptions apply to the way the city applies its enforcement of copyright laws. So that is one reason why I feel we should be able to make a better informed decision. And interestingly, I don't believe council has received advice over the implied right to political discussion or political freedom of speech, as demonstrated through a number of occasions and cases at the High Court. So the two potential bits of information and further briefing the city might be able to make the council might make a better decision, does pertain to the exemptions of the Copyright Act. So I think it's fair for council to understand better that Copyright Act and, if necessary, receive legal advice on that, and also some commentary on the constitutional implied freedom of speech pertaining to political discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. So I'm going to put Councillor Burns as requesting a deferral of his motion. Those in favour of the deferral? Those against the deferral? That is lost. So Councillor Burns, you now have the option, I believe, CEO, of putting your motion.
Thank you, Chair.
So you're going to move it, and can I please ask for a seconder?
Yeah.
Someone going to second the motion? There is no seconder. In the event that there is no seconder, the motion lapses, I'm afraid. Thank you. We will now... Yes, Councillor?
So, point of clarity, if a motion lapses, does it then
Fall away.
fall away? does that still prevent that motion from being brought back, or is that then we reset? And if you know what I mean?
Yeah, so three.
So yes, through the CEO.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. So as part of a notice of motion being lapsed, it can't be presented to council within 3 months. So there's an opportunity for Councillor Burns to bring this up again after 3 months.
End of August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Thank you.
question?
Councillor Comboy.
Could a similar notice of motion with differing content be brought to council? Is it just specific to the exact same motion, or is it the whole subject matter and concept?
It's the intent of the motion.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the next item, which is, does anyone wish to give a notice of a motion that they would like to include in the agenda for their next council meeting? There is none. Late and urgent business, I believe that there is none. Confidential items. We have one confidential item. And as there is an item of confidential business, can I please ask the remover and a seconder that the meeting proceeds behind closed doors in accordance with section 5.23 of the Local Government Act. Can I ask remover, Councillor Pond and Councillor Jackson, I'll put that to the vote. That is carried. Thank you. So on behalf of council, I'd like to thank the members of the public, press and officers and staff for attending. We don't have anyone from the press. And now ask that they leave the chamber. Yes, it has. Thank you. So can I ask for a mover and a seconder that council endorses the recommendations made behind closed doors? Councillor Jackson and Councillor Pond, put that to the vote. That is carried. Thank you. And we've got the doors. Can we please open the doors? And I think they already have been. And I'd just like to say thank you. I'd now like to close the meeting. Thank you for your participation. I apologise that we were a little bit clunky there this evening. I was a little bit thrown off on some of that procedure. And we'll close the meeting at 7:26.
Thank you.
Thank you.